can't do my karaoke.
Thanks, Ben.
You got it, yeah.
Beautiful. So awesome. Oh, that's so awesome. So maybe now I can.
Good evening, everybody, and those watching at home. I welcome you to the March 2021 edition of the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors meeting. First, there will be invocation by Supervisor Dizek, followed by the pledge of allegiance to the flag. If everybody please rise.
Lord, we invite you to preside over this meeting. Even if we have different opinions, give us unity of spirit. Help us to each listen politely to others share their points of view. Help us to work as a unified team in combining ideas for a great outcome. Help us to work as a whole rather than as individuals trying to promote agendas. May we have a spirit of camaraderie in this room and work together for our shared mission. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Dizek. Roll call is going around. The 22 members are present this evening. Supervisors Marsh, Nichols, and Williams are excused. Next up will be consideration and correction of our minutes from our February 9th County Board meeting. Motion by Supervisor Banky, seconded by Supervisor Henderson to approve those minutes. Any discussion on the motion? See none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried and the minutes are approved. Additions or deletions to the agenda. Do you want me to just read them off? Okay. I was going to talk to you before the meeting. I apologize, Jessica, for that. There's one addition to our agenda this evening. F, Board of Health, to appoint 3 members to succeed Shirley Fessler, Dr. Brian Konowalczyk, I hope I pronounced your name correct, and Shannon White for a 2-year term expiring April 2023. That's the only addition to the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Motion by Supervisor Alex, seconded by Supervisor Niles. Discussion on the motion? See none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously and the agenda is approved. If I can have County Executive Bob Ziegler meet me at the podium, we'll do the next couple things over there. Bob, I apologize. Can everybody hear me? And while I announce this too, if it's all right, if you feel comfortable when you're giving your report or speaking, feel free to pull down your mask. Because we have the wipes and things like that with the microphone. So, and this time I want to actually pull mine down right now. You can probably hear a little bit better. I'm sorry, Bob, I didn't get a chance to talk to you before. Do you want to talk about the proclamation for the emergency? Sure. Mike's here.
The proclamation of emergency is just a renewal. It deals only with financial things, and I hope this will be the last one that we'll have to do. Maybe 2 months from now, and we'll have to extend it.
Thank you very much, and I wholeheartedly agree. Hopefully in 2 months, we see that light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully, like I said, in 2 months, we won't have to continue on. All right, next up, we have a couple proclamations. We'll start with, let's see, proclaiming the month of April Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Month, and we have Patricia Dodge, I'm sorry, it's hard to talk about them now. Patricia Dodge, the Human Services Director, will help you to accept it. I'll read that first. And I have the wrong one. We'll get the right one here. All right. Whereas every child is precious and deserves to grow up in a healthy, safe, and nurturing environment free from the threats, dangers, and harmful effects of child abuse and neglect. And whereas child abuse and neglect impacts our entire society and can cause traumatic psychological, emotional, and physical harm to individuals, families, and society. And whereas parents, families, and Manitowoc County residents are encouraged to work together to protect the well-being of our children by recognizing the signs of violence and creating safe, stable, and nurturing environments that safeguard our children. And whereas in 2020, there were 431 cases of child abuse and neglect investigated in Manitowoc County. And of those cases, 138 CHIP petitions, means child protection, correct? Petitions were filed, and whereas all citizens of Manitowoc County are encouraged to recognize that prevention starts with each of us. Now therefore, we, Bob Zagamore, Manitowoc County Executive, and Jim Bry, Manitowoc County Board Chair, along with the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim the month of April 21 as Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Month in Manitowoc County. And urge all citizens to work together to help reduce child abuse and neglect significantly in years to come.
Should I say a few words?
Thank you for all your hard work and human service and everybody, including.
Okay, well, we have always appreciated your support and your being an ally for kids and families in our community. Prevention is a lot of what we do every day, and we have seen that when we can provide resources and services to families who are having a tough time, we have better outcomes for those families, and we can keep them intact rather than having it escalate to have them placed outside the home. So to recognize this month, in the past, we were able to do things that brought families together. We had a family zoo day, so that we would set up several booths for information and resources for families. And we would have games and prizes, and it was all donated. And the last one we had, wasn't last year, we had to cancel that because of COVID. But the one before that, we had over 500 people attend that day, and they all had really good messages to say about it. So we also had Hands Around the Courthouse, which we can't do again this year, and I think some of you joined us at that to recognize the efforts that the community is doing for preventing abuse and neglect. So we always encourage, if you or someone you know has questions or concerns about things that are happening in the community, maybe you have observed something, please feel free to call us. We can provide general information and direct you in the right way. So again, thank you so much for recognizing the importance of healthy families in the community.
And thank you once again, Patricia, and everybody at Human Services, and everybody involved. You do a wonderful job. Thank you so much. Next, we have, Travis Walk is coming up here, our Emergency Management Director. We have a proclamation in honor of National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Still working on the golf cart, but they keep waiting. Thank you for coming tonight, Travis. Whereas the Manitowoc County Joint Dispatch Center provides emergency communications to Manitowoc County, the City of Kiel, City of Manitowoc, and the City of Two Rivers on a 24-hour basis. And whereas the President of the United States and Congress have designated the third full week in April as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. And whereas Manitowoc County recognizes that public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical link between our citizens and emergency service providers. That the services they provide are vital to the health, safety, and welfare of the community, and their commitment and devotion to public service deserve public recognition. And now therefore, we, Bob Ziegelbauer, Manitowoc County Executive, and Jim Bryan, Manitowoc County Board of Chair, along with the Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors, join with the President and Congress in designating the week of April 11th through the 17th of 2021 as National Communicators Week in Manitowoc County to honor these dedicated employees whose diligence and professionalism keep our county and community safe.
Thank you very much.
So thank you to Chairman Bragg and County Executive Ziegelbauer for the proclamation. For those of you that don't know, our Joint Dispatch Center, we have 24 telecommunicators, 21 dispatchers, and 3 supervisors. We handle about 100,000 non-emergency calls every year and about 20,000 911 calls every year. So we're very busy. We handle everything from a dispute with a neighbor to a 911 call for a cardiac arrest to a structure fire, and everything in between. One of the things people don't realize often is our dispatchers, they're really the first responders, because they're not only sending the help, but they're trying to turn you as a 911 caller into a first responder yourself. They are giving instructions to you when you call 911, whether it be about somebody who collapsed in cardiac arrest to calling about somebody who's in labor. They talk you through everything to render aid to the person in need while the first responders are en route. And that's really a commendable thing to try and talk residents here of the Lakeshore through such critical moments in their lives and to get them to the point where those police and fire and EMS personnel are on scene. So commendable job they do. They haven't been untouched by COVID either. It's been a very strange year up in the dispatch center. We haven't been able to have visitors. We've got to kind of be on lockdown because they're such an essential service to the community. We couldn't risk that. But they've also screened tens of thousands of callers for COVID symptoms and flu symptoms to relay that to our first responders to help keep our first responders safe. So a commendable job to all of them through 2020 and now into 2021. So thank you.
Before we go into public comment, Supervisor Volk would like to say a few words quickly, and Supervisor Volk, the mic is yours.
Thank you. Actually, I want to thank you all for the get well card I received a short time ago. I may be minus a kidney, but everything else is going along well. The worst part is actually I can only lift up to 10 pounds for the next 2 months. You know, what can you do with 10 pounds? One thing it does save me from is shoveling snow. So again, thanks all.
Thank you, Supervisor Volk. I'm glad you're doing well, and if you need help shoveling snow, be afraid to call. I can do that to the end, I guess. And yeah, somewhere we'll sneak in there, but hopefully, I guess the bigger question is, and not that I don't like snow, but I think snow could be done for this season. That'll be good. So I think we're all in agreement with that. Thank you again, Supervisor Volk. All right, I'll go on to public comment. If there's anybody from the public wishing to speak to any matter germane to Manitowoc County business, please raise your hand. You'll be allowed approximately 3 minutes. You can come up here, just give your name and address. Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak this evening? Anybody from the public wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Is this thing on? My name is Ryan Garden. I own a small urban farm in Kiel, Wisconsin, Manitowoc County. An urban farm, doing microgreens and such. So I am here to oppose the emergency declaration, and mask mandates. Folks, it is really, really tough to run a small business. I'm also engaged in tourism with my four-wheel drive community. We run one of the largest four-wheel drive businesses in the state of Wisconsin, and tourism is a big part of what we do. Restaurants, hotels, being able to travel is essential to making what we're trying to do work. When we limit how many people we can put in a restaurant, when we can limit how many people we can put in a hotel, it has such a negative effect on everything that we are trying to do. It's almost, there's a lot of things that I want to say up here, and it's like beating a dead horse. I guess I really don't have to say it. There's a lot of us that are thinking the same things. It's very frustrating, and I don't understand. Maybe you can tell me, as a simple farmer guy in rural Kiel, tell me what the emergency proclamation does besides limit our ability as small business owners to try and recover from the last year of what we've had to go through. The amount of shutdowns, the amount of closures, the mental and physical hurt, harm that has come to this community. And I believe all of us here are passionate about protecting one another. I believe that we want to see our businesses succeed. If we keep limiting and tethering these businesses from recovery, we're approaching a point with a lot of these businesses where we're not going to make it. We're approaching a desperation we haven't seen before. And if the state of the country keeps going the way it's going, inflation starts going, there's a lot of things that we're looking at in our economy where we're already walking on eggshells. If it's about the money to keep the declaration in place, doesn't that feel like baiting? When we have to put in an emergency declaration to get the little schnibbles offered out of Madison or federally. What are we doing? What are we telling our community by doing that?
You have about 1 minute more, next, one more
Thank you,
minute.
thank you. In closure, I just want to say, I believe we have a strength in our unity in Manitowoc County. I believe that together we are going to make good, sound decisions. And I really, really appreciate the time to voice an opinion here from rural Kiel to try and represent so many small businesses that are just barely hanging on. And by putting health official feet, and excessive regulations, it's getting to the point where it's almost unbearable for a lot of us. My name again is Ryan Harden from Kiel. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments. And I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, not to take it the wrong way, as County Executive Ziegelbar mentioned when he talked about his proclamation, is essentially to receive, I guess, state and federal aid that might be coming into Manitowoc County. And as he hoped, and I guess that we all hope, we won't have to have this resolution the next time, but it also includes, there's no local mandate from the county, the local mandate in regard to the businesses of this, all from the state. Not that I'm blaming them, because I tend to agree that there's been hardship, but I also think it's been working. And I guess I'm holding on to that light at the end of the tunnel that we're all seeing right now, and let's continue on, and hopefully we get through that really quick. Is there anybody else wishing to speak this evening? Is there anybody else wishing to speak? And for a third and final time, anybody else wishing to speak from the public? Seeing none, I'll declare public comment closed at this time. Communications are shown on the agenda. There's no unfinished business from last meeting, so we'll move on to the county executive appointments. First up is the XY Center Board to appoint one member to fill a vacancy that expires December 31st, 2023. And the recommendation is for Paige Suka. Motion by Supervisor Kavanaugh, second by Supervisor Volk to approve the appointment. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Human Services Board to appoint two members to succeed Supervisor Jim Ballman and Supervisor Mike Williams for a 3-year term expiring April 2024. And the recommendations are for Supervisor Ballman and Williams. Motion by Supervisor Falkowski, second by Supervisor Hendrickson to approve those appointments. Yep, my glasses are sometimes needed. I apologize. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Manitowoc Public Library Board of Trustees will appoint one member to succeed Barb Bundy Yost for a 3-year term expiring April 30th of 2024. And Bob's recommendation is for Supervisor Nicholas Mink. Motion by Supervisor Aulick, second by Supervisor Niles. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Transportation Coordinating Committee to appoint two members to succeed Kara Odom and Steve Reckley for a 3-year term expiring April 2024. And recommendation is for Kara Odom and Steve Reckley. Motion by Supervisor Ballman, second by Supervisor Hendrickson to approve those appointments. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Last but not least, the Board of Health to appoint 3 members to succeed Shirley Fessler, Dr. Brian Konowalchuk, and Shannon Wanek for a 2-year term expiring April 2023. And the recommendations are Shirley Fessler, Dr. Brian Konowalchuk, and Shannon Wanek. Motion by Supervisor Metzger, seconded by Supervisor Aulick to approve those appointments. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, and those appointments are approved as well. Thank you very much. We'll move on to community reports. First up will be Aging and Disability Board. Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
Thank you, Chairman Brown. Our next meeting will be March 23rd at 10 a.m. and the information has been sent out to the members of the committee. We also have a resolution supporting increased funding for aging and disability resource centers. And I'll just go for the first 2/3 of this speech. Whereas the Aging and Disability Resource Center are the first place to go to get accurate, unbiased information on all aspects of life relating to aging or living with a disability. And whereas the ADRC services include providing information and assistance, options and benefits, counseling, coordinating short-term services, conducting functional screens, and enrollment processing and counseling. And whereas in Wisconsin, there are currently 34 single county ADRCs, 12 multi-county tribal ADRCs, and 7 tribal aging and disability resource specialists that work with an ADRC. Whereas ADRC serves the fastest growing demographics of our state's population, and whereas the funding method for ADRCs has not been revised in more than a decade, and the funding for ADRCs has not increased since 2006. And whereas it has become evident that the ADRC funding needs revisions for a number of reasons, including the current inequitable distribution of funding among ADRCs, along with the need to increase funding so all ADRCs may effectively meet their missions, as outlined in the scope of services contract addendum. And whereas the Office for Resource Center Developments within the Department of Health Services established the Stakeholder Advisory Group in 2017 to discuss ADRC funding, and the Stakeholders Advisory Group identified a number of issues with the current funding formula. Let it be resolved that the County Board of Supervisors of Manitowoc County does hereby support increasing the 2021 through 2023 state biennial budget to provide an additional 27,410,000 GPR in funding to our state's ADRCs. Also moved.
So motion by Supervisor Wagner, second by Supervisor Hanson to approve the resolution. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried, and the resolution is passed.
That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Board of Health, Supervisor Metzger is the chair.
We met March 11th. Jim Bride congratulated the Health Department for a wonderful job operating the vaccine clinics and successful visit by Governor Evers and Secretary Timberlake. Stephanie reported that COVID-19 cases remain well below the November peak. The 7-day average is, at the time of the meeting, was 4 cases. The Health Department successfully administered 6,900 vaccines, 4,200 first doses, 2,700 second doses. More than 2/3 of the adults 65 and over have received their first dose. 1 in 5 individuals overall have reached a dose of vaccine in Manitowoc County. We also received the annual 2020 report, and it's posted on the Health Department website. You will find things about the diseases, all the shots given, public health interventions, which include tobacco, pregnancy, and much more. Beach water monitoring, safe drink water, lead exposure, environmental health, and accomplishments. COVID-19 continues to be the most pressing disease in the county. Chlamydia is the second one with 10 cases in February. We have reduced team hours, and weekend hours are no longer needed. And the WIC case was 887 participants in February and 545 families. And the contracted caseload is 1,067, and our next meeting is April 8th. That is the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Metzger? Thank you very much. You stole a little bit of my thunder because I was going to talk once again and give some congratulations again. And it'll be my last time, not that I won't ever defend these people, but I've been making my rounds around the Expo Board and the Finance Committee and the Board of Health, as Supervisor Metzger mentioned. I had the privilege to be with County Executive Ziegelbauer when Governor Evers and Secretary of Department of Human Services, Timberlake, visited the COVID vaccination clinic in this very room here at Expo several Fridays ago. They were both very impressed with how it was going, and I have heard from the public as well. There's been nothing but good thoughts and good feelings about it. So once again, for at least now, the last time, I'm going to thank Travis Walk, our Emergency Management Director, and his staff with Emergency Management, Stephanie Lambert, who's our Public Health Director, and her staff, and Janelle Kruzek, who works here with the Public Works Department with Expo, and all their staff and all their volunteers. A great job. Governor Evers, I talked to him privately, was so impressed. He was very impressed, and he actually said this could be a model for other areas. So congratulations once again, and I'll give you a round of applause too. Keep up the great work. I was talking with Travis before the meeting started that after this meeting, basically it'll be set up again tomorrow for the vaccinations. And now that the vaccination, I guess, eligibility list has changed again, there'll be more and more people coming, not here, but all across Manitowoc County. So that light at the end of the tunnel, as I mentioned, is there. Let's keep it moving forward. So it's going great. Thank you once again, guys. All right, Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. Supervisor Falkowski is our representative there.
No report this month.
Okay, no report. Thank you very much. Executive Committee, I have no report at this time either. Expo Licensing Board, Supervisor Kavanaugh is our representative, one of our representatives there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Expo Ice Center Board actually had 2 meetings since our last board meeting. One was Wednesday, February 10th, and the other was Wednesday, March 10th. We had discussion, a lot of discussion on how we're gonna handle the loss of Scott Gunderson, who retired, as far as giving us all the help that he did at the county fair with awards for the junior kids, horsemanship, showmanship, first builder award. And we had a person from Bellers, Andy Aldous, who has a very good dairy background. She is graduated from Madison with a dairy science major. Exhibited herself at the state fair. She's formerly from Door County, and she did a lot of showing there too. She's worked with juniors in the past, and she has offered to kind of fill that void until we find out what's going to happen with the replacement for Scott. Also, the University of Wisconsin Extension mentioned that they will give us as much help as they can too. A decision was made that the juniors that aged out last year can still show at this year's fair. Those would be the people that would have been 19, so they'll have one more year of being eligible. Loss of revenue for this year, 2021, is already over $12,000 from the loss of rummage sales, the Brew Fest, Horse-a-Rama, the home show, and now we found out about a week ago that the Anthill Mob Dance, which really drew a lot of people, that has been canceled too. We approved the horse pullers contract for this year's fair, and we had a lot of discussion on having polka bands again, and really didn't come to any decision. We're gonna cover that in future meetings. Also, we discussed potential shuttle bus hours for pretty much for the weekend when we have the largest attendance. We had discussion on milking parlor supervisor, which we need, and we're gonna try to come up with some possibilities before next meeting and approach a few people to see if they would do this. We approved the recommendation for Paige Hookup to be on the board. Of course, this was addressed earlier tonight too, and she's a former county dairy princess, so we're happy to have her come on board. And our next meeting will be Wednesday, April 14th.
Any questions for Supervisor Kavanaugh? You forgot the biggest announcement that came out of the Expo Board meeting last week.
Pardon?
You forgot the biggest announcement out of the Expo Board meeting last week.
I'll let you do that.
I guess I was roped in, but not unroped in, but I'm officially the first contestant in the cream puff eating contest at the fair this year, so that's one reason to have the fair this year, so I'm looking forward to it. I guess I still have the faith that the fair will be able to go on this fall. I should say late summer. But Supervisor Benke, as I was walking out, had some discussion about them having a hog kissing contest too or something, so I'm not sure, he pointed at me, so I'm not so sure about that one yet, but that might be in the future. Any questions for Supervisor Kavanaugh? Thank you very much. Finance Committee, Supervisor Hanson is the chair.
Thank you very much, Chairman Cream Puff. I may goof this up tonight, so I'm depending on Jessica to help me out here, but we have some things on finance that are important. We passed something right before the meeting tonight to make some things happen, so bear with me if I goof this up. We met on the 8th, denied sale of a piece of property in Two Rivers. The property we have assessed at $45,000 and the bid came in about $5,000, so it was not a good deal for the county, so we denied that. Then we talked about a resolution that you're going to see coming up. Every year we do this, we transfer funds from this year to next year, or from last year to this year. Some projects are not finished, some things are not done, so we have to carry over those funds. And that's the first resolution you're going to get tonight from Finance. Second resolution is going to be a denial of a claim, another cracked windshield. And our insurance company is saying we should not pay it, so we went along with their wishes. And we are denying that claim. And the fourth thing, the most important thing, is a resolution authorizing the county to pay off $450,000. I think you have a handout on that. The executive and I don't always agree on everything financially, but this is a really good call by Bob to do this. There is not a lot of places right now where you can make a lot of money if it's sitting where we used to get some interest on savings. There just isn't a lot of good investments right now because the interest rates are so low. So the executive came up with a plan to pay off $450,000 of our debt. If it's sitting there doing nothing for us, we might as well pay off and get a return that we don't have to pay interest in. That's what this resolution is all about. There is a second resolution that will come with that. Our bonding company wanted something very specific on this financial pay down the debt that we're doing. They wanted it specifically, so we had to do that tonight in finance. We got early and put that together. So that'll be resolution 4A, I will call it. I think you have a copy of that in the packet tonight. So with that, I will move that we adopt the first resolution. That's the one carrying over the funds to the new year, and I move that we do that. Mr. Chin.
So motion by Supervisor Hanson, second by Supervisor Olick to approve the resolution. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimously.
Second resolution is the one denying claim for the windshield that got hit by stone and it was chipped. We had one of these, I believe, last month. Insurance company is saying we should not pay this, so we are denying this claim, and I so move, Mr. Chairman.
So motion by Supervisor Hanson, second by Supervisor Kavanaugh to approve the resolution, or denial, the resolution. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimously.
Okay, so hot off the press from the clerk, we're gonna shift around those two resolutions. The special one that we have to pass to pay off that the bonding company wanted, that's a simple majority, and that will be number 4. So again, this was required by the bonding company that we do it specifically for them to pay off that $450,000, and I so move, Mr. Chairman.
So motion by Supervisor Hanson, second by Supervisor Ballman. Discussion on the motion.
Just one question.
Yes.
That, I know it's not too relevant, but I'm gonna ask anyway. Is that 2.95% rate?
Please use the mic, Supervisor.
Like,
The 2.95% rate on the debt, is that a fixed rate?
I would,
Yes, Bob is shaking his head yes.
That's the only question I had, thank you.
Thank you. Good question.
Thank you for your question or comment. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried, the resolution is passed unanimously.
And finally, we will vote on, we don't have to do that? It's not. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's helping you out over there.
that's why we have a spectacular clerk.
Yes, we do, yes, we do.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's all I got.
Thank you, Brandon. Any questions for Supervisor Hanson? Thank you very much. Highway Committee, Supervisor Benke is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met on March 9th. Went through some, just go through a few of these. One of the items that we've talked about in the past, County Trunk A and X intersection. We've had some incidents, fatalities in that particular intersection in the past. We've asked, there's a number of things that the highway commissioner has done, the highway group has done to make that a safer intersection. The committee in previous month had made a motion to send it to traffic and safety just to have another look at it, to have somebody else take a look at that. And the traffic and safety committee decided to, in addition to the things that were done previously, put cross traffic does not stop. There's traffic stops from the east and west. and through traffic from north and south. And their recommendation was to add that additional cross traffic does not stop onto the stop signs on each side. So we're hoping that that takes care of that intersection. We have a number of them in the county, and that's the process. And I think it's a good process to have the Traffic and Safety Committee take a look at some of those things and give their recommendations. So that's what we decided to do. 2021 equipment requests and future purchases. The Highway Commissioner Rodigan went through some of those. Looking at one of the things that he had talked to the committee about was his concern about some of the equipment when it gets to a certain point. When do you stop sticking more money into a piece of equipment based on the amount of miles that you have on it? And some of our equipment, we're looking to not stick any more money. So we're looking at some of those things, looking to kind of change the way we do things. Because once you stick a new engine in some of those types of equipment, you have to, you're never going to get your money out of that piece of equipment. So we're looking at the highway commissioners looking at some of those things, doing things a little bit different in that aspect. And he's doing a really nice job. The highway commissioner, Greg Rodigan, is doing a really nice job of keeping the committee in the loop of what's going on with those types of things. He's got a kind of a different perspective. We looked at cold in place and asphalt bids. I think some of the bids are coming in a little bit lower than what we thought, so those are looking good. From the price per ton on the asphalt is looking good for some of the projects that we're looking at. A new program, high-risk rural roads program, County JJ west of I-43. Those of you that have traveled that has some curvage to it. And so we're looking at some of the safety aspects of that. We have a group coming in free of charge through this high-risk rural roads program that will be taking a look at what we can do on that road, whether it be barricading, different signage, different things that we can do to make that road a little bit safer. So that's at no risk. That's a new program that he brought out. And that pretty much concludes our report. My report. We meet April 13th for our next meeting at 4 p.m. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Banky? Thank you very much. Human Services Board, Supervisor Hendrickson is the chair.
I would like to give the Supervisor Kavanaugh the microphone, please.
Sounds good. Supervisor Kavanaugh, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Human Services Board met Thursday, February 25th. Our education topic was Parent Support Worker Program by Gina Foster. She's the supervisor of the parent support workers. She explained the two main goals of parent support workers are supervised visits and parent education. When the children are placed out of a home, within 5 days of the placement, they are mandated to offer visitation. The parent support workers meet with these parents to work on parent education so the children could be returned to their home and continue to visit the home once the kids are back home to see how everything is working out, how the parents are dealing with their issues then. Also, we approved a resolution, which I guess is our number 12 tonight, that's adding CCS program supervisor. This program has really grown the last while. And for one person to supervise it, it wasn't working out. So there will be 11 employees that would work directly, report to this position. And this is, we were told that as far as the cost, and it's covered by Medicaid. April, and we noted this earlier tonight, is Child Protection Month. May is Foster Care Month, and our next meeting would be Thursday, March 25th. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Kavanaugh? All right, thank you very much. Land Conservation Committee, Utility Extension, Education, Agricultural Committee, Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
Thank you, Chairman Bryan. The Land Conservation Committee will be meeting this Thursday, March 18th, at the county office complex at 4:45. The UW Extension, Education, and Agricultural Committee, next meeting will be April 15th at 4:45. At our last meeting, Kathy Keys, Extension, Manitowoc County Health and Wellbeing Educator, provided updates on her programming. Her teaching focuses on delivering the following programs: highlights of taking care of you is 1. 2 is prevent suicide QPR training. 3, adult mental health first aid. And 4, strong bodies strength training program. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Personnel Committee, I'm going to turn over to Vice Chair Supervisor Ballman.
Okay, Personnel Committee met this evening, for this meeting, and we're bringing forth a resolution authorizing additional 1 full-time equivalent human services employee. This department in the human services has been inundated with work since this COVID. I mean, we're always short, but they really need the help, and Lori Perry, who's currently managing all these different areas, has just got her hands full. So this would add a comprehensive community services supervisor, and as Supervisor Kavanaugh explained, this is a fully funded position, nothing coming out of the county coffers. So I move that we approve this.
No, it's still on later on the agenda, it'll be a joint motion, but that's all right, we're good.
Anyway, that's
Anything else, Supervisor Ballman?
nothing else.
Any questions for Supervisor Ballman? All right, thank you very much. Planning and Park Commission, Supervisor Dyzak is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on February 22nd. We held public hearings on 4 zone change requests and 1 petition for the ordinance amendment to the county code. We then reviewed and subsequently approved 3 zoning variance requests. We then moved to discussion and acceptance of the 2021-2022 snowmobile trail program resolution. And we also then discussed and approved forwarding 3 septic system violations to corporate council for further action. And now for all my ordinances. First, the ordinance amending the Manitowoc County Code, Chapter 31, the floodplain zoning appendix. The update will include the new floodplain study for the Manitowoc Rapids County Trunk Highway R Bridge, and I move for its approval.
Motion by Supervisor Dyzak, second by Supervisor Falkowski. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Okay, next is the ordinance for the Garrow properties to rezone approximately 0.67 acres from high density to commercial business. The area to be considered for rezoning meets past criteria set by the Commission for Rezoning Land from the High Density District. Cato Town Planning Commission and the Cato Town Board support this change. And the rezone will allow the property owner to locate a bulk propane business on the parcel, which would be consistent with the zoning on his adjacent parcel. And there already is existing propane business located right next door. And I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dyzak, second by Supervisor Ming to approve the ordinance. Any discussion on the motion? See none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Okay, next we have the ordinance for the Adam and Brianna Schmidt to rezone approximately 19.62 acres from exclusive ag to general ag. The area to be considered for rezoning meets the past criteria set by the commission for rezoning land from exclusive ag. Maple Grove Town Board supports the proposed change. The rezone will allow the property owner to construct a single-family home, and the land is basically either wooded or very wet land, so it's not conducive to farming anyhow. And I move for its approval.
A motion by Supervisor Dizak, second by Supervisor Vogt. Discussion on the motion? See none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimously.
Make sure I'm on the right one here. Next is the ordinance for Victor Grimm to rezone approximately 10 acres of land from exclusive ag to general ag. The area to be considered for rezoning meets past criteria set by the commission to rezone land from exclusive ag. The Maple Grove Town Board supports the proposed change, and again, the rezone will allow the property owner to construct a single-family home. And I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, second by Supervisor Hagan. Discussion on the motion. See none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimously.
Next is the ordinance for Spring Hills Farms to rezone approximately 4.5 acres from general ag to commercial business. The area to be considered for rezoning meets past criteria. The Rockland Town Board supports the change, and the rezone will allow the neighboring property owner to purchase land and expand his existing business. And I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, second by Supervisor Sikowitz. That's a hand, right? Any discussion on the motion? See none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimously.
And finally, the resolution authorizing the continuation of the snowmobile trail program. Manitowoc County has completed 48 years of participating in the snowmobile aid program. Manitowoc County is eligible to continue its participation in the snowmobile program and has budgeted $67,410 for the program to cover costs of 224.7 miles of trail. I think that's pretty amazing for Manitowoc County. And I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, second by Supervisor Engelbrecht. Discussion on the motion. See none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimously.
Okay, our next meeting is April 26th, and that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. I think the amount of paper was probably as long as that snowmobile trail that you had here. Thank you very much. Any questions for Supervisor Dizak? Thank you once again. Supervisor Nichols informed me before the meeting that he wasn't going to be here, but he also said there would be no committee report from Public Safety, so we'll move on to Public Works Committee. Supervisor Droll is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Public Works Committee met March 10th. We reviewed and discussed the solid waste and recycling division. Recycling materials have been down for quite some time and have had a resurgence. And so we're getting more money for our plastics and high-density polyethylene and paper and cardboard, and that's a good thing. We approved a compost awareness week and have offered a 50% off sale for screen compost during that period, which is May 3rd through the 8th, and it only includes pickup. We have a lot of compost, and we'd like to get rid of it. And it's very interesting when you hear the sophistication of compost. I mean, surprisingly so. We discussed it at length. John did a great job, and Jerry did a great job of describing it, and it's quite scientific. So it's very, very interesting. We reviewed and discussed the Buildings and Grounds Division and some of the projects that have been completed. There were no pay requests, so we reviewed and discussed the Communications Division, and we went over the Information Systems Division, and Cody Berg, which you know saw in an email from him. We're changing our email address shortly to .gov, which makes things easier and makes things more secure for us. We got a report from Janelle Shelton on what's going on here at the expo, and with all of the vaccination programs going on, and hopefully all the fair and other events we'll have eventually this year. It's very busy out here, and that concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Giroux? Thank you very much. Supervisor Ballman informed me there's no report from the Transportation Coordinating Committee, so we'll move on to miscellaneous. The first one is the Resolution 2020-2021-74, ratifying county executives March 5th, 2021 proclamation of continuing public health emergency. I will so move, seconded by Supervisor Aulick. Discussion on the motion. Supervisor Hagan.
I spoke with Bob via email earlier today and got some clarification, but I had a question for Supervisor Hanson. And actually one other question, but for Supervisor Hanson, you're on the Finance Committee. Can you explain to me the mechanics between this emergency and the finance and so forth, and how they're linked and what that condition is?
I don't think they're really. Supervisor Aulick, do you have a point of? I'll let you speak, because you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Basically, what we're doing as a county is responding to a pandemic. We're incurring costs as we go along, and this enables us to recoup a major portion of our costs as we go along. So these are some costs that we are making to respond to the pandemic. And if we don't keep our, dot our I's, cross our T's, we stand to lose reimbursement. And if we do lose those reimbursements, the county taxpayers are going to be on the hook for these costs.
So, to summarize, in effect, this emergency declaration allows us to apply for the reimbursement, but doesn't really do any other restrictions to businesses or anything else in Manitowoc County.
And I think that's an excellent point.
Right, and that was, and I'll chime in here as well. That's the resolution that we've passed essentially for the last year. There's been no discussion, I guess, restrictions on businesses or mask mandates or anything from the county. This has been strictly for reimbursement of expenses, as Supervisor Aulick had mentioned.
There seems to be a misconception in the public about that. So restrictions that I'm aware of come down from Madison or the federal government. At the county level, we're just doing the reimbursement so that we don't have to do anything like a tax hike to cover these costs. The importance, and I'll just make a quick statement here. 6 months ago, I spoke with our last health director that we had prior to Stephanie coming on board, and the path out of this mess is herd immunity. Ideally through vaccination or through everyone who gets immunity to it. One way or another, 70% of the population getting immune, the virus has nowhere to go, it dies away just like other viruses have historically. Okay? The misconception in our county, and I've heard this from countless constituents, is that this emergency is causing restrictions on businesses and so forth. It's not. It's simply so we can reach that light at the end of the tunnel. And we're getting there fast. I'm looking at the numbers, I'm chugging the numbers. I'm not as good as Bob at chugging numbers, but I'm chugging the numbers and we are fast approaching it. So I would support this.
Thank you for your comments. Supervisor Hanson, do you want to speak yet, or?
No, thank you, Supervisor Aulick.
So Supervisor Dysek, you have the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to oppose it again for the same reason I did last time. Sooner or later, somebody just has to say no. We talk about, well, this is going to get our money back. Well, guess what? It's still our money. The taxpayers, I don't care if it's coming out of the county budget, federal budget, state budget, city budget, it's the taxpayers' money. And we just got to say no on finally. We get past this whole situation of everybody being scared and we're in an emergency, and I just can't support it. We got to stop. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passed 21-1 with Supervisor Dizak voting no. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the joint resolution between the Human Services Board and the Personnel Committee, the resolution 2020-2175, authorizing addition of one full-time equivalent human services employee, comprehensive community service supervisor. So motion by Supervisor Hendrickson, second by Supervisor Benke. Discussion on the motion. See none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carried unanimously. Now, the special committee on number of apportionment and supervisor districts, we met before the meeting to approve the resolution, which is, we bring it forward here, it's resolution 2020-2176, establishing a number of supervisory districts, which we, in the resolution, will remain at 25. So, motion by Supervisor Aulick, second by Supervisor Falkowski. Discussion on the motion. I guess just quickly, not so much the numbers, but I mentioned it to the committee tonight, and I will send out the email that I received from the Wisconsin Counties Association. As I mentioned before, right now the U.S. Census numbers are being delayed, they're giving them to the state, and hopefully it was originally predicted at July 31st. Now it's actually been pushed back to September. Jessica watched a webinar with the Wisconsin County Association. They gave a nice presentation. They are recommending potentially from our law firm representing the county association, they're going to recommend to the state of Wisconsin that redistricting, essentially redrawing of the lines or redistricting of the state, not only the national, the state level, and the local level districts would happen in 2022 instead of trying to cram it through into next year or this year and get it done before the election process for 2022. I'm not opposed to that or in favor yet. I do want to talk, as I mentioned, to Tim Ryan in our planning department, because they have the ability, the bottom line is once those numbers come to the county, they have the ability with their mapping and GIS to start drawing those lines and stuff like that. So granted, it's at the local level, it's not the state and the federal level, which I think is going to be the bigger discussion coming down, but we'll go from there and then we'll just see what happens, I guess. That's all I can say at this time. That's all we know. So is there any questions on that portion? Okay. Now back to the resolution. Any other discussion on the resolution?
So basically staying with 25 and no changes? Yep.
That is a recommendation from the committee, yes, Supervisor Hagan. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimously. So the county board will remain at 25 supervisors for the next term. All right, now we have a resolution introduced by Supervisor Aulick, 2020-2177, approving Town of Newton zoning ordinance map amendment for Stephen Kim Fisher. It's a motion by Supervisor Aulick, second by Supervisor Hanson. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Announcements, we have a couple. I'm going to start with Supervisor Engelbeck. He wanted to announce the Towns Association meeting. If somebody can hand him the mic, that'd be great.
Yes, Thursday night, there's a meeting of the Manitowoc unit of the Wisconsin Towns Association down at St. Asians at Meeks. You're all invited to come, give a chance to see what town government is about if you so wish. Jessica Backus and Greg Gordica will be our speakers, so it should be a pretty interesting program. So again, Thursday night, St. Asians, 7 o'clock, we start with lunch, 7:30 is the meeting, and the lunch is really for Kevin Banky, so. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Engelbeck. Gotta be jokester tonight. That's all right. We need a little laugh. That's all right. Anything? I got two more things. I didn't mention this, but we're fortunate that next month's meeting we're going to Stephanie Travis respectfully speak about the pandemic and our response to it and what's been happening up until then, and hopefully a good future. As we heard tonight and heard it nationwide, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and I think we're approaching that, and I hope we can continue on that path, and we're going that direction. Let's pray that it won't reverse. And last but not least, other announcements, and speaking, I guess, a little bit about that light at the end of the tunnel, I've reached a decision, I made a decision, I should say, that unless something drastically would change during the next month, we will be going back to the Heritage Center next month in the April meeting for our county board meetings. Will be social distancing available if anybody else wants it. It's still, the mask has to be wearing a mask there, but we have the tables in the center. If you don't feel comfortable sitting next to somebody, we can certainly move in and just talk about that. So, like I said, unless something drastically changes, we'll be moving back there next month in April. That's all I have. If there's nothing else, Supervisor Droll?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, seconded by Supervisor Falkowski. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a safe trip home.
Snuggle up there. You gotta give me that one.